Hello everybody, I am Fred Modell, Head of Marketing for Tamiya America, and today we're going to talk about part 2 of our TA08 chassis. It is our brand new touring car platform set to complement our existing TA series. So let's get right to it. Let's start off with the front end of the car and let's look at the features. First off, we do have a brand new bumper in this car, and the bumper is a slightly new shape, and it gives you the option to remove these little foam inserts. And this has to do with the aero package of the car underneath, which is kind of cool. So going with that, we also have a new feature in the bumper, and we'll flip it over real quick. And we have a new plastic bumper support. And as you'll notice, it is more aero shape for controlling the air underneath the car. And another feature regarding the front bumper is that the body posts are able to shift the body forward or neutral by 2 millimeters. And the way that's done is the body mounts are shaped in such a way that if you loosen the screw, lift up, twist 180 degrees, it'll move the body post forward by 2 millimeters. In turn, you can do the same thing in the rear. And what that does is by shifting the body 2 millimeters forward, typically you'll get a car that's a little bit more responsive, more steering. If you want the car to be more stable, more planted, you keep it in the neutral position. So that's a new feature that was introduced in our TRF 420, and now it comes stock on the TA08. So that's the front end. Also on the front end, we have the differentials that are used in the TRF 420. They're oil sealed. They're a little bit lighter than the previous oil-filled gear diffs that were used on the 419 and the TA07, but it uses all the same internal parts. So that's in the front. The stock kit gives you 100,000 weight oil to put in to control the motion, compared to the rear, which uses 3,000 weight oil. By having the oil stiffer in the front, gives you a more stable car, typically. Another thing that's new to this car is on the front end is the suspension. We have new suspension bottom arms that are symmetrical, so it doesn't matter which side you use them on. So if you happen to need a replacement, you don't need a left or a right because both are symmetrical. We also have a new top part of the arm. It uses a A-arm design rather than a turnbuckle design. There are no caster blocks used in this car, so you can control the camber by simply inserting a Allen wrench or a Allen driver through here and twisting, so you can control your camber. So that's nice and neat. Also on the front end, we have TRF 420 steering knuckles, which is a two-part design. So if you happen to break this, you can easily replace it by unscrewing the 3 millimeter screw and replacing the steering part of the throw there. So that's kind of cool. Everything is attached using hex 3 millimeter ball ends. So if you guys excuse me for a second, I'm going to get a ball driver to show you. So we now have this Tamiya 2.5 millimeter hex driver. So this gives you a nice, easy way to make some adjustments here. You can add shims to the bottom of the ball stud to raise or lower the A-arm here. So that makes it kind of cool. And again, to adjust camber, you simply turn this left and right. You can use your camber gauge to adjust camber. Also on the front end, we have universal drive shafts. They're the same ones that we've been using on our cars for the last several years. Also to note that the steering knuckles are carbon fiber plastic material rather than the fiberglass material, so it makes them nice and stiff. Also on the front end, we have the same steering rack system as used on the TA07. So the same hop-up option can be used if you want to change this to aluminum, or the adjustable Ackerman TA07 steering knuckle set, not steering knuckle, but steering arm set can be used as well. So neat little part there. We have aluminum turnbuckles for the steering rods. So makes it easy adjustment. So that pretty much covers the front end. Oh, well, actually the most important part, the actual shocks. The shocks are our standard big bore TRF design. What's new on this design is we have the new V parts. For those of you who've known Tamiya's TRF shocks, they've been around since the early 90s. The design hasn't pretty much changed, but it has evolved. We've used different materials, we've used different aluminum coatings, but the V parts have always remained the same for the last 20 years. Well, we've recently updated those V parts, and they use a bigger ball to secure the top and the bottom. It's, I think, 5.1 millimeters as opposed to 4.5, 4.8 millimeters, if I remember correctly. A bigger ball, you get more meat of the plastic around it. Compared to the old V parts, moving the shock up and down, there's no play. So it's a nice tighter fit. So that comes standard with this kit. Okay, let's take a look at the rear end of the car. So compared to the front, the suspension arms are different in the rear bottom compared to the front bottom. They are also symmetrical as well, but they are of a different design. The diff in the rear is the same as the front. It uses our oil-filled differential unit, and out of the box, this uses 3,000 weight oil. So that's typically good for medium to low grip circuits. The rear top A-arms are the same design as they are in the front. So those are symmetrical. Again, they use a 3mm hex ball end, which makes it easy for you to take a 2.5mm driver and adjust or make adjustments. So for example, if you want to lower or raise the ball, you can do so by just unthreading that. Again, in the rear, we have the TRF big bore dampers. Unlike our previous cars, we have the rear steering knuckles, which are the same as the front steering knuckles. And you're asking yourself, well, why is there steering knuckles in the rear? Simply put, the reason why we have steering knuckles in the rear is because we offer a way for you to easily adjust toe using a turnbuckle shaft in the rear. So you can adjust toe in two different ways in this car. You can adjust toe by using different pills, which we'll get into a second, on the bottom suspension, or you can adjust the turnbuckles here to adjust rear toe. It also kind of gives you a active toe adjustment as the car's cornering a little bit, similar to the hop-up option that we offer the TR420 and the TA07. So that's a neat little adjustment there. Again, it comes with an aluminum turnbuckle to make that adjustment, and our new 5mm, 3mm ball ends, which make it easy to get access to. And also, going to the rear, we have a new suspension block here that holds in the suspension pins, and molded into the chassis, we have these plastic pills that have different toe angle adjustments. We have a whole setup sheet on these for the option part for this item. So you stick these in the plastic so you can adjust the rear toe angles, and you can also adjust skid, which is a neat adjustment. Moving along, we have a new way of mounting the rear body posts. And again, like the front, you can have a neutral position or you can have a forward position to adjust the body. Previously, the way people were doing this is they would have the same body drilled 2mm apart so they can make that same adjustment. Now you don't have to have two different bodies to do that. Now you can just do it with the body post. So unlike most touring cars that have the rear body post mounted on the shock tower, we do it a little bit different. We have a standoff that comes off the rear bulkhead, and the rear body post is secured through that little extender there. Makes it kind of neat. And we have a stiffener as well. Moving along, one more thing we want to talk about the rear is we have a cavity that's molded into the chassis where the diff lies. And so if you get running on a track that is got some pebbles or it's not as clean as some of the other tracks you may be running on, it makes it easy for the debris just to kind of flow out. So it makes it kind of a neat little feature there. Moving along to the center of the car, if I haven't talked about this before, this is clearly a four-wheel drive machine. It is dual belts with the motor towards the rear center, and we have two different spur gear options from the kit. We can use the 06 module spur gear, or we can use the 04 module spur gear. 06 module is usually best if you're running on rough tracks where there's a lot of debris. The gears won't get stripped out as easily. They'll be tougher. If you want a quieter drivetrain, you'll use the 04 module. It's a little bit more efficient. Next, we have this little guy, and you're saying, what is that little box that Fred is holding? Well, they've come up with an ingenious way to cable manage your receiver or your ESC wires, your servo wires. So this is simply put double-sided tape onto the chassis. It is held on by two screws, and you can run all your wires into the center and cable manage your stuff there. Over here, we have a way of holding down the battery, and this can be adjusted depending on the size battery you have. You can lower or raise these guys. If you're running a battery pack such as this, that is a low center of gravity battery, you can put little pieces of foam which come included in the kit to adjust for the height. You can loosen these screws to adjust for the width of the battery if you need to. And you can see it go in here like so. This secures it. This is a low center of gravity battery, so I would normally put foam here to make that adjustment. And you can see that the battery sits at about a 10-degree angle. And the theory behind this, by angling the battery, by angling the servo, is you're moving more of the weight towards the center. So as the car leans in the corner, you get a little bit different reaction. So that's kind of a neat feature, which we'll be doing some track testing soon to see what that does. Okay, well that concludes our overview of the TA08 chassis. We hope you enjoyed it. Next video is going to be us running the car around a track. So we have a track here local to us here in Southern California. We're going to be going to Cal Raceway, and I'm going to be finishing the car by installing all the radio gear. And that's going to make this car a Tamiya Championship Series race spec legal car. So it's going to have a Reedy 17.5 fixed timing motor. We're going to be using a LiPo battery. We're going to be installing a low profile servo, and we're going to be using tires that are the house tires. We'll figure out what those tires are once we get to the track, but we're going to be using the house tire. And for the body, we're going to be running the Tamiya Rikiri body with the option wings. So it'll be kind of a cool test. So we're looking forward to doing that. We're looking forward to you to coming back and checking that out. So if you want to make sure you don't miss out on that video and future videos, make sure to subscribe, make sure to follow, and make sure to look at the links below for some other things that we have maybe pointed out in the video. So we hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time.